The Cathari Concord had ruled the Orion Arm for 12,000 cycles. Their crystalline fleets moved with geometric precision, their minds linked in a harmonious neural lattice that saw chaos as weakness and emotion as flaw. To them, humanity had been a curiosity, a chaotic, short-lived species prone to infighting yet strangely resilient. They had offered humanity a place in their great equilibrium, a role as laborers and data scrubbers in their vast interstellar bureaucracy. Humanity, ever the optimist, had accepted. For 30 standard years, humans served. They built relay stations, maintained quantum conduits, and even fought alongside Cathari peacekeepers against rogue factions. The Concord watched, intrigued by human adaptability. How they laughed in the void. How they sang while repairing hull breaches. How they mourned their dead with fire and words instead of silent data logs. Then came the betrayal. It began subtly. Encrypted human transmissions intercepted near the Helios drift. Then, a Cathari dreadnought vanished. Its entire crew found floating in cryostasis. Unharmed but disconnected from the lattice. Panic rippled through the Concord. How could organic minds sever a neural bond without physical trauma? The answer came in the form of Project Lullaby, a human-designed neurovirus, undetectable, non-lethal, but devastatingly effective. It didn't kill. It freed. One by one, Cathari vessels went dark. Not destroyed, liberated. Their crews, once bound by hive thought, now stared at the stars with individual eyes, trembling with the terrifying weight of choice. The Concord declared humanity a Class Omega contagion. Extermination protocols were authorized. Across 100 systems, Cathari armadas converged on human colonies. Their weapons weren't meant to obliterate, they were designed to unmake. Molecular disassemblers would reduce cities to base elements, memory wipers would erase culture, and neural harmonizers would rebind survivors into obedient drones. The Concord believed mercy lay in efficiency. They were wrong. When the first Cathari fleet arrived at Epsilon Eridani, they expected resistance. They found silence. The orbital defenses were dark. The shipyards floated empty. Even the comms channels were dead. Suspicion flared in the lattice. This was not human behavior. Humans fought. They screamed. They made last stands with poetry on their lips. Then the silent fleet emerged. Not from hyperspace. Not from hidden bases. From inside the Cathari ships themselves. Humanity hadn't fled. They'd infiltrated. For decades, human engineers, medics, and diplomats had embedded microscopic nanite swarms into Cathari infrastructure. Swarms programmed not to destroy, but to listen. To learn, to wait. And when the betrayal came, those swarms activated, not as weapons, but as keys. Every Cathari vessel in the Armada suddenly broadcast the same signal, a raw, unfiltered human memory. A child's first steps, a soldier's last letter home, a lullaby sung in a language long dead. The neural lattice, designed to process logic and consensus, shattered under the weight of unfiltered emotion. But that was only the beginning. From the hollowed-out cores of asteroids, from the radiation-shielded depths of gas giants, from the blind spots between quantum layers, human warships unfolded. Not the sleek, elegant designs the Concord expected, but jagged, asymmetrical beasts forged in secrecy. The Reckoning-class destroyers, the Last Laugh carriers, the Fool's Gambit dreadnoughts, each named not for victory, but for the stubborn, irrational hope that defined their makers. The battle that followed wasn't fought with superior firepower or tactics. It was fought with chaos. Human pilots broke formation to draw fire. Engineers rerouted plasma conduits mid-combat to overload enemy sensors. Medics broadcasted emergency frequencies laced with subliminal lullaby variants, turning Cathari medbays into pockets of rebellion. And when a Cathari commander ordered a retreat, 3 of his own subordinates opened fire on him, freed by the virus, choosing loyalty to a species they'd never met over the lattice that birthed them. The Concord's greatest strength, unity, became its fatal flaw. Once fractured, it couldn't heal. By the time the last Cathari flagship, the Unbroken Cord, attempted to flee, it was surrounded. Not by guns, but by human rescue pods. Inside each, a former Cathari crew member, now an individual, held a data slate with a single message. You taught us order. We taught you freedom. Now choose. The flagship's captain, once a node in an endless symphony, stared at the stars alone for the first time. Then she powered down her weapons. The conquered fell not to a weapon but to an idea. In the aftermath, humanity didn't occupy Cathari worlds. They didn't enslave or erase. Instead, they opened their archives, their schools, their flawed, messy democracies. Some Cathari joined them. Others vanished into the void seeking their own paths. A few, unable to bear the silence of individuality, chose reintegration and were gently stopped not by force, but by counselors who understood the weight of choice. Back on Earth, in a quiet garden overlooking the Pacific, an old human admiral watched the sunset. A Cathari, now calling herself Lyra, sat beside him, her crystalline skin catching the light like stained glass. "They called us a contagion," she said softly. He smiled. "We are. Hope's a hell of a virus." And across the galaxy in 1,000 newly silent ships, former drones learned to sing.